The only way I really know how to start this review is Damon Lindelof, ultimately, you proved you have the biggest dick in town because you were able to take this Watchmen property that was created by Alan Moore and David Gibbons and just create something even better than the original, and while also complimenting the original on top of that. So yeah, Damon Lindelof, your dick is mighty. And it's crazy that we are here already. It's been 9 weeks and we are finally at the season finale. And it might very well be the series finale where, if you believe Damon Lindelof, who says he has no plans to continue this series. But either way, we're here. The final episode of Watchmen Season 1, Episode 9, entitled See How They Fly. And my God, what an episode. Like, this episode basically answers every single question except one that you had during this Watchmen series. Like, this was a beautiful wrap up, and I will get to the one question that I feel like they didn't answer later on. But yeah, so if you haven't been watching my Watchmen reviews beforehand, which I will find weird that you're gonna watch my review of the season finale and you haven't watched my other reviews, but in case you haven't, this will be a full spoiler discussion. I'm going to be talking about everything in the episode. So if you haven't watched episode 9 of Watchmen, See How They Fly, go see it, come back here, watch my review, let's have a discussion, and then leave a comment and tell me how you felt about it below. So this episode opens up in 1985. You get to see the moment from a couple episodes where Adrian Veidt is leaving a message to now newly elected president Robert Redford. The same message that Looking Glass saw a couple episodes ago. Now this is the beginnings of that. And unbeknownst to him, one of the many workers in this Antarctic facility is breaking into his office. And for this to be the world's smartest man, I'm just like, wow, it's pretty easy to hack into Adrian's security protocols. But anyway, she figures out his password, and it's discovered that behind this giant canvas painting of Alexander the Great, he has thousands and thousands of vials of cum. And I was just like, okay. And so she pulls one of them, which I believe it said sample 2473, which I'm assuming means it's the 2473rd vial, and she injects it into herself, thus confirming something that I suspected for a long time, that Lady True is indeed Adrian Veidt's daughter. And even though I suspected this to be true, I didn't know it went down this way. Like, what the hell? Like, the woman broke in and stole Adrian Veidt's cum jar and injected it into herself. And part of me is just wondering, what was the motivation behind her doing it? Because it's not like she did it to extort him and get money from him and create some type of financial stability for herself. So I was wondering, what was her motivation for doing that? But they never really answered that. But of course, during this scene, I was thinking, because this is the way my mind works, I was like, so he had to have jerked off 2,473 times. So I'm like, if he did it at least once a day, that's 365 vials. So he would have had to have done it every single day for at least over 6 years to accumulate that many vials. I'm just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if I bottled all the times that I've jerked off in the last 6+ years, I'd probably even have more than that. So then you get to the next scene and you get to the first meeting between Lady True and Adrian Veidt. She finds his sanctuary in Antarctica, and she essentially reveals to him that she is his daughter. She comes to him and tries to stroke his ego by saying, hey, I know you were the person that released the giant squid on the world, destroying 3 million people, thus saving the world, causing the potential nuclear holocaust to be suspended between Russia and America. And I, as the smartest woman in the world, just want to say thank you, because I know the world doesn't know that you're responsible for this. The world doesn't know that they have you to thank for saving the world. And I just wanted to let you know, I think this idea was brilliant. And so again, being a huge narcissist and having somebody stroke his ego like this, because at first he didn't want anything to do with Lady True. He thought she was a fan, but then with her stroking his ego like that, he decides to invite her in for coffee. And that's when she decides to put her cards on the table and reveal that no, she's actually his daughter. To which we find out, which I didn't know this, that he's like, that's impossible. I can't have a daughter because I've never given myself to a woman. And I was like, wow, this whole time that Adrian Veidt's been alive, he's been a virgin? Talk about putting the 40-year-old virgin movie to shame. Like, this man is 60+ years old and he's a virgin. But then also at the same time, when he was like, because I modeled myself after Alexander the Great. Now granted, from a historical standpoint, Alexander the Great has been known to be a huge womanizer. He's been known to fall in love with men as well. And there was also, going to a reference from the comics, Rorschach did mention that he believes Ozymandias could be a homosexual. So I'm like, yeah, you probably never given yourself to a woman because you're out there having sex with men. But then at the same time, it would explain why he's been jerking off so much, because he's never had sex before. So you gotta release somehow. But then again, I'm like, well, I'm not a virgin, but I still... Never mind. But anyway, so Adrian Veidt tells her, like, even if it's true and you are my daughter, I'm not going to help you because A, I don't acknowledge you as my daughter. I would never call you daughter. But then on top of that, my parents, when they died, they left me with an enormous amount of wealth. And what did I do with it? I gave it away because I wanted to prove to the world and to myself I could build something from nothing. Because Lady True comes to him essentially saying that she knows that Dr. Manhattan is not on Mars. She built a computer program to basically search for his particular radioactive signature that he releases. And that's how she discovered he was on one of the moons of Jupiter, Europa. And she tells him within the next 5 years and whatever days and seconds or whatever, her satellite is going to go to Europa and snap pictures because she wants to confirm that Dr. Manhattan is actually there. She has a plan of destroying him, taking his power and absorbing it into her own body because just like Ozymandias, like father, like daughter, she wants to be able to save the world. And go into something that happened in the last episode where Adrian Veidt was just saying, why did they keep building their nuclear weapons? And she's just like, well, with the powers of Dr. Manhattan, I could completely get rid of nukes. Which is why she goes to Ozymandias because she's like, in order to enact this plan, I need about $45 billion to be able to make this giant machine, which we eventually learn is that Millennium Clock. And so from that meeting, she decides to take his advice and she goes and builds something from nothing to the point that she even surpasses him and becomes a multi-trillionaire. So then you jump to the moon of Europa where Adrian Veidt is trapped on there, and while he's still in his jail cell, a spaceship lands, the spaceship from Lady True. Adrian Veidt sneaks out of the prison from the hole that he dug, and I'm still just like, how do you dig through concrete with a horseshoe? Like, I don't understand the physics of that and how that actually works. But anyway, so he tries to enter the ship, and the game warden is holding a rifle to him and saying, don't make me shoot you. You're not going on this ship. You're not leaving. And they do bring back that thing from the comic where Adrian Veidt said one of his special talents is that he can catch bullets out of thin air. So when the game warden tries to shoot him, he catches the bullet. And eventually, he kills the game warden to where you find out the reveal that everything that the game warden has been doing, this little game of cat and mouse that they've been playing, it's all been a part of Adrian Veidt's plan. And in the most fucked up way where he's like, I've been here for 8 years and I needed time to kill and I needed a most worthy adversary. And part of the reason that these creatures, this Mr. Phillips and Miss Crookshanks even exist is because their whole drive, their whole motivating factor is to please someone, to worship someone. So thinking that he made his master proud, saying like, Master, did I do you justice? Did I prove to be a worthy adversary? With a smile on his face as he's dying, thinking that he died fulfilling his master's wish. And Adrian Veidt just saying to him, no, you weren't. It was like so fucked up. Like the smile on the game warden's face just died. Those are the last words that he got. I was like, that's so fucked up. And so then you see Adrian Veidt blast off into space, off of Europa, back to Earth, and then you get the reveal of what Save Me D was. You get the full reveal of the word. Because I remember before when I did the review, I was like, what is D? Does D stand for Dr. Manhattan? Is D's Lady True's first name? Well, I was kind of on track with that. D was Save Me Daughter. The way that they had to craft this show and the ideas that they introduced in earlier episodes that they play off later, like, god damn the genius of the show. At another moment, I was like, holy fucking shit. To prevent starvation and insanity and all of that stuff, step into this capsule and put your arms on your hips. The fact that Adrian Veidt was that statue that we seen in episode 4. He's been there the whole time. Like, oh, what the fuck? The very first episode that Lady True was introduced, when she went to that farm of the bootleg Kents, that's supposed to be based off of Jonathan and Martha Kent. When she went to buy that farm and then you saw that spaceship crash land to Earth, that was Adrian Veidt coming to Earth. That was in episode 4. He's been there the whole time. What the fuck? He's essentially in carbonite, like from Star Wars. So when she takes his form and decarbonates him, more or less, she tells her mother, Beyond, who she's been pretending to be her daughter, she tells him like, look, this isn't how I wanted this to come out, and I wasn't ready for you to learn this yet, but he's gonna more than likely say something, so I want to reveal to you. And Beyond already knows. She's like, I'm your mother. And Lady True looks shocked, which was funny because it doesn't seem to be that much stuff to shock her. And so she wakes up Adrian and she tells him like, hey, I did exactly what you said. I made something out of nothing, and I want you to be here to witness how I'm going to ascend to godhood. And that's what Adrian notices, like, you cloned your mother? And she's like, see, I said he was going to say something. And it even shows that, again, with Lady True surpassing Adrian Veidt, despite him being the world's smartest man, she's way smarter than even he is and is always a step ahead of him. Even when he revealed, like, hey, Dr. Manhattan is on Earth and he's moonlighting as a human being, she's like, oh, I've known that for a while now. When he sees the Millennium Clock, he's like, oh my God, I can't believe you actually built it. It's something that he couldn't have came up with, because remember when he said to Dr. Manhattan in episode 8 that his plan B was to destroy Dr. Manhattan, which he didn't accomplish. When he put Dr. Manhattan in that intrinsic field generator, Manhattan was just able to reform himself. It didn't work. But you get to Lady True, ultimately jumping forward, her plan did work. She was able to destroy God. And so that's when you get to the scene of the 7th Cavalry members. I hate it when white people, whether real or fictional, because you hear it in movies and on people like in Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, how it's hard to be a white man now in this country. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, hard my ass. Hard where? You still have all the fucking power. Look at everybody in government. Look at the Supreme Court. Look at the CEOs of companies. Look at the writers' rooms of shows. Look at directors, actors, etc., etc. Hard where? But yeah, so he gives this little speech to Laurie and the rest of the 7th Cavalry, which you also find out his father is a part of that. And you find out how the 7th Cavalry even found out about Dr. Manhattan in the first place. And the way they found out was when Cal activated his powers out of instinct and teleported one of the 7th Cavalry members to Gila Flats, New Mexico, the city of his birth. And that's when his plan changed from trying to control both sides of the police and the 7th Cavalry on his way to assuming the presidency, to now taking that power and becoming a god, the newest Dr. Manhattan. And funny enough, as he's taking his clothes off and it's revealed that he's wearing the same Dr. Manhattan underwear, the huge underwear with like the V that Dr. Manhattan wore in the comics, which Laurie was like, your panties are pretty ugly. And he's like, come on, Laurie, I'm about to become the most powerful man in the world. I'm not going to double down on it by waving my dick in everybody's face. While he was taking his clothes off, granted, I have a different perspective of Senator King, but I was still just looking at his body like, hey, Senator King. His body isn't as poppin' as Yahya Abdul-Mateen, but he still has a nice body. I know, I'm shameful. Sue me. I don't care. Angela shows up. She's trying to warn Senator King and essentially save him, like, do not go into that device to take his powers. It's not going to go the way you think. Lady True told me a while ago that you were going to do this and she was going to stop you. Like, don't do it. I'm trying, like, please listen to me. And in many ways, it kind of goes this idea of black people trying to save everybody, including other races. Like this idea of affirmative action, which was fought for by black women and black men, and it was designed to help black people. Affirmative action has helped just as many white women as it's helped black people, and you can look the data up on that if you don't believe me. But anyway, so typical of any racist white man, he doesn't listen to her, and he kind of says to her, like, this is the line he says, and I was like, sounds pretty gay, but it's kind of hot. I would definitely watch this. When he was like, you're gonna watch me squeeze your man and drink everything from him. I was like, yeah. But then on the flip side, there's a line that kind of pissed me off, or you could get shot down like the black bitch you are. And so he steps into the generator and tries to turn it on. And let me backtrack a little bit. Before that, you see Looking Glass. He's infiltrating the 7th Cavalry, trying to figure out a way to get Laurie out, while also taking out a few of them in the interim. And he tells Special Agent Blake that they tried to get me to narc on Angela, but then they went around and tried to kill me. And so I took them out, and now I'm here for some revenge. So yeah, Senator King jumps into the bootleg intrinsic field generator to try to steal Dr. Manhattan's powers. That's when they all get teleported to the original spot of the 1921 Tulsa massacre that was turned into a mall. And because of teleportation, and this is something that they kind of also mentioned in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, was where Dark Willow teleports Buffy from the Warlock Rat's place back to the magic box, and Buffy gets really sick and nauseated. The process can be a little painful if you're anybody but me. That's what that reminded me of. Again, because I'm a big Buffy fan, so a lot of things remind me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But yeah, so everybody has an adverse reaction to the teleportation. They're throwing up and they have ringing in their ears. This series shows, despite white supremacy and the 7th Cavalry being the overarching villain of the season, no, actually, Lady True was the biggest villain. Lady True was the big bad, the one you needed to watch out for this entire time. And she was manipulating everybody to get to this end goal of becoming a god. And she shows that, hey, Senator King, he's dead. Because if you're trying to absorb all this atomic energy, you need to filter it first and not just automatically put it in your body. Otherwise, you're going to pop like a balloon. And that's exactly what he did. All that blood and viscera was all over the floor, freaking out everybody. And I was here for all of it. I was like, yes, I hope he suffered at it and it wasn't just a quick death. And speaking of suffering suffering and a quick death. So Lady True made a deal with Will. Hey, if I deliver Dr. Manhattan to you, I need you to take out these senior members of Cyclops, which she does. She gives him a speech, and Judd Crawford's wife is just like, just fucking do it. Just kill us. You're gonna kill us, right? And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna kill you. And so she has all these lasers come down and takes out all the 7th Cavalry members. And I was just like, yes, kill these racist motherfuckers. And I gotta say, I should have said this earlier, but this episode, considering how this show began, and it was very grounded and based in realism, and then you get to this episode, like, this episode was a pure comic book, and I loved every single moment of it. And so you see Dr. Manhattan in that cage, not doing anything, still naked, and once again, you see blue penis, you see Dr. Manhattan penis, but hey, granted, I don't know for sure, but I was like, yeah, I don't think the Dr. Manhattan penis is real. This looks a lot more fake than, say, the penis he had in the last episode, which I think was actually Yahya Abdul-Mateen. But this time around, I was like, is this a CGI penis? A, because I was just like, who would be the makeup artist to essentially be painting Yahya Abdul-Mateen's dick blue? I mean, aside from me, of course, I would sign up for that job in a heartbeat. Like, hey guys, I'm quitting YouTube to fulfill my dream to paint Yahya Abdul-Mateen's dick blue. Hashtag mission accomplished. But I don't know, yeah, just when they like did the close-ups and you saw his dick, I was like, yeah, I don't think that's real. And I was doing some full analysis. I zoomed in, I got a microscope, I put in some algorithms to find out error, not real penis. But anyway, so you find out that whatever chamber that Dr. Manhattan is in is keeping him from being present. He's living all his other lives in other timelines. But at the same time, I'm still just like, but you're a god, bro. Like, even if you are living other times, you're still somewhat aware enough of what's going on to the point that A, you were able to teleport Ozymandias, Looking Glass, and Detective Blake away to help save everyone, and you're aware enough to have a conversation with Angela to say, hey, the reason I didn't teleport you away is because I don't want to be alone when I die. Clearly, you must be cognitive enough to destroy all of this shit that's going on. Like, it didn't say it zapped away your powers. You still have all your powers. So I'm like, what are you doing? And I guess it goes back to what Adrian Veidt said to him in the previous episode. It's like, John, you have a severe lack of imagination. And then jumping forward, it goes to something that Will Reeves says, I'm sad he's gone, but considering what he could do, he probably could have did more. And that goes into something I said last week when I was like, I don't understand how his powers work in terms of he can see the future, but yeah, he says he can't prevent the future. I think part of that is because he sees one timeline and he sees, okay, in this timeline, this is what I did. And so that's what he does. He says, oh, I can't prevent it because I see in the future that's what I did. But there's never been a moment that he tries to prevent the future and then that future still comes to pass. It's just like, oh, in this future, I see I'm having a fight with Angela, so I'm just going to say the same words that I see in that future that I'll have a fight with her. Instead of saying, oh, I see I have a fight with Angela, so I'm going to work to try to prevent that, but then you end up having a fight anyway. Then you can see, okay, well, no matter what I do, the future is going to come to pass. It's like, no, I think he just has a severe lack of imagination. And so if maybe somebody else had the powers that he has, maybe they would have and could have done more. It's not that he can't prevent the future or change the future. He just doesn't. But anyway, so in a beautiful moment where right before he dies, Dr. Manhattan says to her, I'm in every moment that we were together, all at the same time. And I was like, that's such a beautiful moment. And then he loses all his powers, and then you see him in the form of Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Cal, right before he dies. Even though I was like, that's a beautiful moment, and from a story standpoint, I understand why they did this, I was still a little confused in the sense that they already established that Dr. Manhattan was not originally a black man. He was originally a white Jewish kid and eventually a white Jewish man and then a blue Jewish man. And then he eventually took the form of Cal later on in the series. So part of me was like, yes, again, from a story perspective, I get it. And it would be a little weird and jarring if the opposite happened. But I was still just like, from a logical standpoint, I don't understand why the moment that all the essence that made him Dr. Manhattan was sucked out of him, why he didn't appear in his original human white man form. Cal was a form that he molded himself into with his Dr. Manhattan powers. Now all that power is gone. Why wasn't he a regular white man at that point? That's the thing I don't get. Now granted, like I said, from a story perspective, I get it. You want to talk about and dial in on the fact of this black couple, this black on black love, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, the actor, and Regina King, the chemistry that they had together. You want to dial in on that, and it'd be kind of weird to have this random white guy just show up out of nowhere. From a story standpoint, it makes sense, but from a logical standpoint, I'm just like, burr? But either way, that was a beautiful moment. I'm not really complaining about about it. I was just like, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, so Adrian Veidt decides to save the day by having those cephalopods rain down on Tulsa, Oklahoma, but this time he decides to freeze them in mid-air. When they're coming down at that high velocity, it's going to basically be like a Gatling gun raining from the heavens. And so anybody that's in that area is essentially going to die. So Adrian says like, hey, I hope you don't have any loved ones in that area because everybody in that area is about to die. So Lori makes a phone call to Angela basically warning her like, get out of there. They're going to come down at any moment and you're all going to die. Like, please, like, escape. But thankfully, she was able to escape a lot of the squids raining down on her. But you know who wasn't able to escape? Lady True. And in an almost biblical type of way, the very first squid hit her in her hand and she had a hole in her hand. And the reason I say a very biblical type of way, because while she was standing in that cage to absorb the powers of Dr. Manhattan, you kept seeing the cross and the symbol of Jesus that the 7th Cavalry had in their church in the background. She killed the white supremacists and now she's trying to assume and take on the role of godhood. And in almost like a Jesus type of way, now she's going through the stigmata because now she has the hole in her hand. That was actually an interesting and a cool way to do that. But eventually she dies because all those squids coming down, they destroy the giant orb that she had floating above her that was supposed to filter and then give her the powers of Dr. Manhattan, thus ending the reign of Lady True, which Adrian Veidt considers a worthy adversary, somebody that he doesn't want to have the powers of a god, because it makes mention, if there's anybody that's actually seeking the powers of a god, that's the last person you want to have the powers of a god. And then you get to the moment that I love the most in this episode. This show is based off a comic. It started off in a very realistic way in dealing with the idea of blackness and dealing with racism in the 1921 Tulsa, Oklahoma race riots. But then as you got further and further into the series, it started to become more and more comic booky as it went along, to the point that you got this episode. But then it ended in a very quiet way with you got a conversation in a theater with two characters, and despite it being a comic book property, it still ended in the way it began, on blackness. And I love that conversation that Will had with Angela, basically saying like, hey, you took my pills, this is my origin story, now you know what I felt, now you know what I've been through. And so she basically says like, yeah, everything that you felt was anger. And this is the thing I love, it wasn't anger that I felt. I thought that for the longest time, but what I felt was fear and hurt. I feel like that sums up a lot of the black experience in total, because it's like, as a white person, you don't have to walk through life, especially in America, wondering if people hate you because of the color of your skin, wondering if you're going to get murdered because of the color of your skin, wondering if you're not going to get hired somewhere because of the color of your skin. But as a black man or woman in America, you have to wonder every time you get pulled over by a police officer, you have in the back of your mind, this could actually go very wrong. Or if you end up in certain segments of the country. Like I could talk about with the time I visited Bismarck, North Dakota, and the racism that I experienced in Bismarck. White people don't really have to go through that. Or going to like Will Reeves' time, the fear of possibly being lynched by the KKK, or the fear of being even chased out of your own community, like the 1921 race massacre of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street. Like the fear of that, and then this idea, and then this hurt, because this is supposed to be America. This is supposed to be the land where you get to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, except if you have a different skin color. Even the idea of black people fighting in every single war of this country since its inception, and going to something that happened in previous episodes where you have black people fighting for the freedom and liberation of America and destroying the Nazis and all that stuff in Germany during World War II, only to come home back to America and only to still worry about Jim Crow and segregation and not being able to use certain bathrooms and basically being treated like shit, being treated like a nigger, to the point that the Nazis tried to exploit that with all the black soldiers by giving them pamphlets by saying, hey, why are you fighting for a country that doesn't love you? That's, again, the hurt. And going to a motto that Yoda used to say in the Star Wars universe,
fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering.
All very true. And another line that I love where Will says to Angela, like, can't heal behind a mask. Wounds need air. That goes to Angela's story, because the truth of the matter is you haven't really seen Angela dress up as Sister Night for a couple of episodes now. And I feel like if they do a season 2, I don't think Angela's going to be Sister Night. She's just going to be Angela Abar. That even goes to like the main theme of this episode, talking about dealing with racism. More times than not, people try to hide behind the progress that black people have made in 2019 to say, oh yeah, racism racism is over, even through the election of Barack Obama. Oh yeah, racism is over. We're a post-racist country because we elected a black president. It's like, no, there are way other issues. There are way deeper issues. And just because you elected a black president doesn't mean the racism is over. But just because they're trying to hide behind that mask of dealing with racism, or this idea of nobody alive today has ever owned slaves. So yeah, racism is over. It was a different timeline, etc., etc. But it's like, no, stop trying to hide behind this mask and just air it out. That's why this idea of saying, oh, we don't want to give black people reparations, a lot of that has to do with hiding behind the mask and not dealing with the racism and the racist history of this country. Wounds need air to heal. And so yeah, you could debate it or not, but the episode ends on what some people may call a cliffhanger, or other people may say that was the perfect ending. Will says to Angela, Dr. Manhattan left a message for her by basically saying, can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And she's like, well, I don't know what it means. He's like, well, it's not the right time yet. After she revives John from being Dr. Manhattan instead of being Cal, she wakes him up from his sleeping coma. He's using his powers and like making breakfast, and so she takes a bunch of eggs that he's using and smashes them. But there's one egg that's still alive, thus going into this big egg theme that's been throughout the entire season. And then she remembers something that he said to her when they first met, that he could transfer his powers into something organic, like say an egg, and if Angela were to drink that egg, she too would inherit his powers. And so because there's that one egg that's left, she takes a chance and does something I never recommend anybody to do ever, just to drink a raw egg like that. And so she drinks the raw egg, and then you see her try to walk on water. There's a moment where Dr. Manhattan says to her, you need to see me walking on water. It will be important later on. And you see her try to walk on water, and right as soon as her foot touches the water, it fades to black. And I knew that. I was like, watch it fade to black. Watch it fade to black. Oh, it fades to black. God damn it. But ultimately, yes, this episode I would give a blockbuster. This season, I would say, is a mega blockbuster. Like, I love the fuck out of this show. Like, consider when I saw the trailers for this show the first time, I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this show. I'm not feeling the trailers. I don't know what this show is going to be about. It's probably not even all that good. Lo and behold, I'm just like, oh, fuck. I want to go rewatch the whole season now that I know what I know. And I'm just like, God damn, this show was good. Now, granted, Damon Lindelof said he has no intention of coming back for season 2. Now, I don't necessarily believe him, because Todd Phillips said he wasn't going to come back and do a Joker. Then, lo and behold, the Joker ended up making over $1 billion. And now he's like, hey, I'm coming back to do a sequel. I have a feeling the same thing's going to happen, because Watchmen has been pretty high in the ratings. Damon Lindelof's probably going to be like, oh yeah, I have no intentions of doing a season 2. And then HBO is going to be like, do a season 2, do a season 2, do a season 2. And he's going to be like, oh yeah, I got an idea for a season 2. But I still think like this is the perfect ending. And ultimately, I feel like it could be one of three things. Either A, if there is no season 2, then yeah, in my mind, she's the new Dr. Manhattan. Or there is a season 2 and they're going to follow Angela, but you can't make her a god, because then where do you go with the storyline from there? So she doesn't have his powers. They go more into her life as now she's trying to give up she's still a cop, but she's giving up her identity as Sister Knight. Or another possibility, so there might be 4 possibilities because I said 3. Or another possibility, they are going to do a season 2. She is the new Dr. Manhattan, but it's not focusing on her. It's focusing on a new set of characters. She's the new god in this new Watchmen universe. Or the 4th possibility is she didn't get Dr. Manhattan's powers, but because she ingested a raw egg, season 2 is going to be about her in the hospital the whole time, because now she got fucking salmonella poisoning for eating an uncooked egg. Considering the tragedy of this show, I consider that the more likely possibility. But yeah, like I said, again, I love this episode. I love this season. Like, my God, Damon Lindelof, whatever you do next, I'm going to follow you. So yeah, kudos for Damon Lindelof. You did the damn thing for that series. But also, before I end the video, I do gotta mention, I feel like this show and this series ended answering basically every question that I had. There's actually 2 questions that the show didn't answer. Now, one, Damon Lindelof actually answered during the podcast, which I do recommend you guys listen to, but every 3 episodes, there's an official HBO podcast where Damon Lindelof does an interview about those 3 episodes. But within the show itself, they didn't answer was, what the fuck was the deal with that elephant in episode 7? Damon Lindelof did answer that question, which if you don't know the answer to that, again, I recommend you watch the podcast. I'm not going to talk about it here because it's kind of a long explanation. But yeah, but the other question that they never answered, which I'm just like, what is the mystery? What is going on with Lube Man? They never talked about him again. Like, who is he? Casey. I assumed he was going to be revealed to be Petey. What's going on with Loop Man? I want to know what Loop Man is. And especially if we're not going to get another season of the show, where's Loop Man? But yeah, those are the two questions I was like, the show never answered it. But then I listened to the podcast and I got the answer to the elephant. I didn't get my answer to Loop Man. That's the one like minor, super small complaint that I have about this entire series that I would still consider pretty perfect. So yeah, guys, what did you think of Watchmen Season 1? What was your favorite episode so far? I think my favorite episode is still episode 6, the Hooded Justice episode. You might have a different favorite episode. Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is your first time watching one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.